What's good, YouTube? Welcome back. Thank you for clicking onto this reaction. I hope you're looking forward to it just as much as I am. If you haven't already, head over to the content creators page. That link is in the description box down below. If you haven't already and you're enjoying our content, you know what you need to do. You need to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, but we're going to jump straight into this one. There we go.
The once mighty and all-conquering Ottoman Empire
I'll get it right one day,
guys.
I swear.
By the early 20th century. The empire, which had once instilled fear in the hearts of the European monarchs, had become corrupt in a state of constant turmoil, with a weak army, finances virtually controlled by the Ottoman Public Debt Administration, dominated by the European great powers, which also claimed patronage and protection of various minorities living in the empire. The latest major pre-World War I devastation of the Sublime Porte was its defeat in the First Balkan War in 1913, as a result of which the Ottoman Empire ceded almost all of its European territories, losing 250,000 soldiers.
That's a lot of soldiers.
The Arabic periphery of the empire was disintegrating, and was either on the verge of colonization by another power or independence. In response, the Committee of Union and Progress Triumvirate, generally referred to as the Young Turks, had taken full control of the Ottoman government via a coup d'etat in January 1913.
Okay, that's very interesting. I didn't know that.
Sultan Mehmed V's power was now purely ceremonial. Meanwhile, the German Empire was on the rise in Europe. Energetic Emperor Wilhelm II intended rapid expansion of Germany and wanted it to have a place under the sun, its own colonial empire. He believed that Germany had a right to have a say in all important global matters. In 1900, he embarked on a campaign to strengthen the German army and make its navy at least as strong as the British. He wanted to use the Ottomans to disrupt the British advancement in the east, and so in the 1880s, Germany sent a number of military missions to the Ottoman Empire to modernize its army. This
also they used the Ottoman Empire for knowledge to start off with. That's very, very interesting.
Also led to increased purchase of German arms rather than British, enabling companies such as Mauser, Krupp and Loewe to profit handsomely. Wilhelm II loved the spotlight, so he visited the Ottoman Empire twice. During his visit in 1889, he played an important role in securing arms contracts for German producers. His second visit in 1898 was even more eventful. He met with the Ottoman Sultan Abdülhamid II in Istanbul and continued his travel by visiting Jerusalem and Damascus. He promised to support the restoration of Saladin's tomb, and assured the crowd in Damascus that he was a friend of the Caliph, the Ottoman Sultan, and 300 million Muslims of the world. Apparently, Wilhelm II was profoundly impressed during the trip and confided with his cousin, Russian Tsar Nicholas II, that had he been irreligious, he would have certainly become Muslim after his trip.
That's a very interesting statement. That's a very interesting statement to take on board.
Proclaiming himself a friend of 300 million Muslims was a political statement, which was quite unusual for Christian Europe, and paved the way for mockery of Wilhelm, who stated that he had become Haji Wilhelm or Haji Muhammad Guillermo, while also causing all kinds of rumors in the Muslim East. The bazaars in the Muslim capitals whispered about Wilhelm II's conversion to Islam, liberally interpreted some passages in the Quran stating that the Kaiser was chosen by Allah.
I'm going to rewind it slightly because I want to make sure I'm getting this. I'm enjoying this video.
Guillermo, while also causing all kinds of rumors in the Muslim East. The bazaars in the Muslim capitals whispered about Wilhelm II's conversion to Islam, liberally interpreted some passages in the Quran stating that the Kaiser was chosen by Allah to save the Ummah from the infidels. Wilhelm II's
okay.
trip to the Ottoman Empire also allowed him to secure the building of the Berlin-Baghdad Railway. German companies were already in charge of the construction of a commercial port in Haydarpasa and a railway from Izmit to Ankara, and were now allowed to continue their railway construction to Baghdad and from there to the Persian Gulf. Germany hoped that the Berlin-Istanbul
They were really allowed to build a train line to go all the way across there. Like that's so valuable. That's so valuable, being able to access so many different countries, so many different resources at so many different prices, then being able to transport it to your country through all of those places, and then also then being able to export anything that you have extra out to all of these places as well. That's actually so valuable. Did it get completed? That's my next question.
Part of the railway would prevent Russian expansion to the Mediterranean through the Balkans, and it would help to transport German goods to the east faster. There were rumors of oil fields in Mesopotamia, and the Berlin-Baghdad railway would allow Germany to transport oil for its industry faster. Moreover, it had implications for British imperial interests in Egypt, Iran and India, as well as the French interests in the Levant. Thus, the project caused considerable unease in the European capitals. In order to alleviate this, the sponsor of this venture, the Deutsche Bank, offered British, French and Russian investors to join the project with minority status, but the offer was refused, as these countries had no interest in participating in a project dominated by the Germans.
Yeah, of course.
By 1904, the first part of the project was completed, leading to further deterioration of relations between Germany and other powers. The
because they're now starting to get more power themselves, so they're becoming more of a threat.
Conclusion of an alliance between Britain and France in 1904 and with Russia in 1907, hence the formation of the Triple Entente, was a reaction to German expansion, an important part of which was the Berlin-Baghdad railway project. Throughout the period, economic relations between the countries prospered, and as a senior partner in this relationship, Germany benefited more from this. Between 1890 and 1910, Germany's share in Turkey's trade volume tripled to 21%, while the Ottoman exports to Germany rose from a value of £766,000 to £3,203,000 sterling.
Ooh.
German exports to the Ottoman Empire increased from £1,970,000 in 1890 to £5,778,000 in 1910.
These jumps are massive.
The holdings of Germany in Ottoman debt increased from 7.5 to 15% between 1881 and 1898. France and Britain accounted for 25.9 and 16.9% of the foreign investment in Turkish enterprises respectively, while Germany's share alone reached 45.4%. In summary, Germany had succeeded in gaining a significant degree of influence over the Ottoman Empire in a relatively short time.
They got a massive
Despite
influence.
its rapidly
that's not a small influence. That's a massive influence. That's more than the two other great powers at that point in time. Like, that's such an achievement. Wow.
expanding relations with Germany. Many in the Young Turks movement were pro-British and pro-French. German support for the Austrian annexation of Bosnia and reports about the conflict between local and German military leadership turned public opinion, and some Turkish newspapers called on the government to remove the German military. The Grand Vizier Kamil Pasha wanted to check the increased
So this is where it starts going south, is
German
it?
influence over Ottoman military affairs, and invited British naval officers to oversee the reorganization of the navy. He managed to limit the German military presence to 15 to 20 men, all below the rank of colonel. France was invited to oversee the establishment of the gendarmerie in the Ottoman Empire. So, during the July crisis
They were now trying to balance that power out that Germany had.
of 1914, just prior to the beginning of the First World War, the Ottoman Empire's situation was uncertain, and a military alliance with Germany was by no means a decided affair. The principal Ottoman concern was to retain its existing territory, particularly checking the threat coming from Russia to the Straits and Istanbul, as well as eastern Anatolia. The triumvirate also sought to decrease foreign involvement in the internal affairs of the empire.
Understandable. If you're like trying to secede the power for yourself, you're going to make sure there's no outside influence. Outside influence.
22nd of July, Enver Pasha proposed an alliance with Germany to the German ambassador in Istanbul, but it was refused, as the German government and its military command did not believe that the Ottoman Empire had anything to offer as an ally.
Whoa.
Jamal Pasha's similar offer to France was rejected as well. The same happened to Talat Pasha's offer to Britain. Wilhelm.
So no wonder why now you would be paid off. You would also want to show that you are worth being like sat at that table, which all three of these countries do not believe that you were worthy sitting at that table. So that's a big disrespect.
The second was informed about the Ottoman attempts and reacted quite angrily. It is absolutely nothing compared with earlier. Turkey no longer intends to stick with us. They are trailing in the Russo-French wake where money is thrown about and is feeding us solely with words. We cannot keep Turkey on our side because we have no money. They amuse us with fine-sounding words, but are joining Russia and the Triple Entente for anti-Greek aims. We are in fact sharpening Turkish weapons for them.
Okay, that's very interesting. So this is where the Germany public and politicians start seeing the Turkish people as a threat as well.
Wilhelm II was a fervent supporter of a military alliance with the Ottomans, as he believed that as a caliph, the Sultan would be able to persuade the Muslims of the world to rise up against Britain, France and Russia. The expectation from the Ottomans was to divert the attention of the British and Russian forces from the main theatre of war in Europe to the Middle East and the Caucasus. The Ottomans were to mobilize the Muslim subjects of the Entente countries after liberating them from occupation.
It kind of makes sense what they're trying to achieve and what they're aiming for here, for sure. And it also seemed, I agree, like that the Ottomans become reliant on the foreign advisors and also money and economy at the beginning. But it seems like they want to break away from that now. That's what it's sort of coming across from my sort of viewpoint.
The decision of the British government on requisitioning 2 ready warships built in the British shipyards for the Ottoman Navy gave another opportunity for the German and Ottoman governments to discuss their alliance. This incident alienated pro-Entente forces in the Ottoman government. Germany offered SMS Gobin and SMS Breslau as replacements for the Ottomans in order to demonstrate its goodwill and gain influence. Talks between the states culminated on August 2nd, when they signed a secret treaty making them allies for the war. A few days later, the Ottoman government opened the Dardanelles Strait to allow SMS Gobin and SMS Breslau with a German commander and crew to the Black Sea. Even after signing the treaty, the Ottomans tried to stay out of the war for as long as possible, preferring to wait for the initial result of military actions. They continued their attempts to negotiate with the other great powers, but to no avail. The Germans pushed as hard as they could for the Ottomans to immediately join military actions. Finally, on the 29th of October 1914, Breslau and Gobin, under Ottoman flags but commanded by the German Admiral Wilhelm Souchon, made a surprise attack on the Russian naval bases in Crimea.
They finally actually joined the side of the Germans.
Russia declared war on the Ottoman Empire, and soon her allies did the same, ultimately dragging the Ottomans into the war. On November 14th, the Sultan made this proclamation: "O Muslims, ye who are smitten with happiness and are on the verge of sacrificing your life and your goods for the cause of right and of braving perils, gather now around the imperial throne, obey the commands of the Almighty, who in the Quran promises us bliss in this and the next world. Embrace ye the foot of the Caliph's throne, and know ye that the state is at war with Russia, England, France and their allies, and that these are the enemies of Islam."
Wow, I bet that got a lot of people behind him as well.
The chief of the believers, the Caliph, invites you all as Muslims to join in this holy war. Jihad was justified with the argument, and the Muslim community was attacked by Britain, France and Russia, and called their subjects to rise up against the infidels and stated the names of infidel countries to be targeted.
It's a shame that that is usually what happens, is when like people are called upon from a certain culture or religion, hate crimes are then like sort of committed onto them because of the fear aspect that people have and the mob mentality people have.
The fatwa also prohibited fighting against the Ottoman Empire. The previous century saw a number of proclamations of jihad during the wars participated in by the Ottomans, but there were also cases where there was no proclamation of jihad during wars in order to avoid alienating European powers. Some historians argue that the proclamation was pushed by the Germans, who believed that the proclamation of jihad could lead to a Muslim uprising against Britain, France and Russia. But given the scale of the war, the Ottomans could have themselves decided to proclaim jihad with an aim to gain whatever advantage it could give.
Again, I really enjoy these videos because it does make you think which one of those was true. What both have fair basis, and I think both could be true, and I definitely have to think on that one, but I'm definitely interested to see what you guys think about this as well.
The Kaiser's personal friend, a successor of a large German banking dynasty, an explorer in the Muslim East, Max von Oppenheim, played an important role in spreading the idea of jihad. He became head of Germany's intelligence bureau for the East and used his extensive network to bribe and persuade Muslim religious leaders in various countries to issue fatwas of jihad against all infidels, except Austrians, Hungarians and Germans, which was a dubious application of the Islamic law. It
is always a shame when you have people twisting all religions to make it better for their own gain. It's a horrible thing people do, so it's a shame that was done.
The German-Ottoman alliance and the proclamation of jihad by the Ottomans caused various reactions in Europe and the Muslim East. The religious authorities in the Entente countries publicly condemned the proclamation. Amidst an overwhelmingly pro-war attitude in Germany, the proclamation was met with enthusiasm in the German media. The Leipziger Neuesten Nachrichten newspaper expressed its confidence that jihad would be a threat to England and would be successful.
Interesting.
A call from the Caliph will be heard as far as Arabia, in Algiers, in Morocco, and the band of shared faith will unite them all. Interestingly, it caused an academic debate among the researchers of Islam in Europe. Prominent Dutch scholar Christian Snoek Herronje attacked his German colleagues for supporting the Ottoman proclamation of jihad in his article called The Holy War Made in Germany. Snoek had lived in Muslim countries for a significant portion of his life and acted as a colonial advisor in Indonesia for the Dutch. He had a certain affection for the Muslims, and throughout his academic life and civil service, did a lot to improve the lives of Muslims living in Dutch colonies. In the article, he accused his German colleagues of instigating this whole process. Snoek believed in integrating
So this is where we get one of those theories, one of these points of views from.
Muslims into European societies, and that proclamation of jihad was detrimental to that. He argued that jihad was a medieval concept which had no place in modern political discourse. In general, Snoek was staunchly against using religion for political and military purposes.
So I think it's good that he was against it, and it sort of jumps onto a comment I just saw that Light made, which is, well, let's not pretend that religion has ever been independent from politics, which is very true. Very true. Throughout European history, you can see religion definitely being part of it. Throughout all of religion, you can definitely see it. The fact that religion is sort of side by side with politics. But I definitely think that it would be better if we did separate the two. You know, people can have different religion beliefs that shouldn't sort of necessarily be involved in political beliefs, you know, and in the political talk space. Everyone should be able to have their religious beliefs, and everyone should be able to follow their religion. And the fact that it comes into conversation that it shouldn't, and so on and so forth, is an issue, you know. But yeah.
He criticized German scholars Hugo Grote and Karl Heinrich Becker, who stated in their articles their belief that Germany would help Turkey to rebuild and modernize, while Turkey should support Germany by proclaiming jihad against his enemies, and called the support for jihad a great sin. Slook's article was translated into English and gained significant prominence in the Entente countries, particularly inside academic circles, as the anti-German bloc was engaged in its own propaganda to mitigate the risks of jihad proclamation. In London, The Times published a series of declarations of Muslims in India, including the leader of Nizari Ismailis in India, Aga Khan III, expressing their support for Britain. In Russia, the Mufti of the Caucasus issued his own fatwa condemning the Ottoman Jihad. In France, the Revue du Monde
So the call has backfired on him.
Journal published numerous articles and letters from Muslim leaders in North and West Africa, who assured their support to France. One of such was from the Sultan of Morocco, who called Muslims to defend France. So the Entente countries were wary of the potential of the jihad proclamation and took their own steps against it.
Well, there you go then. There you go. It looks like it really did backfire on them.
The Ottoman press was overwhelmingly supportive of an alliance with Germany and Austria. Even prior to the war, Germany already had influence in the Ottoman press, as the newspaper Iktam was controlled by the German embassy. Some publishing houses in Istanbul were owned by German companies. German and Austrian influence increased even more, as the printing paper was distributed and rationed by their embassies. This forced many Ottoman newspapers to engage in pro-German and pro-Austrian propaganda.
I see.
Printed in a publishing house co-owned by the Deutsche Orient Bank, praised Germany for transferring 2 warships to
They're just making their propaganda machine work everywhere.
The Ottoman Empire in its article called The Muslim World and the Germans, where they also mentioned that, unlike the Entente, Germany had always been respectful of Muslims. Similarly, newspaper Tanin also praised Germany for giving 2 warships to the Ottoman Empire. Apart from applauding Germany for its support to Turkey, early during the war, the Turkish press also tried to conceal information on the German defeat at the Marne and spread propaganda about German victories.
Mate, they really infiltrated
the alliance with Germany and the Holy War, the Ottoman military journals and newspapers published the text of the Proclamation of Jihad and justified its alliance with Christian nations Germany and Austria by claiming that they had always been friendly to the Ottomans and Muslims, somehow forgetting
again, it's just bending those rules once again.
Bosnia was annexed by Austria a few years ago. The Ottoman press also reported on good treatment of Muslim POWs in Germany, which was the policy enacted under the advice of Max von Oppenheim. The editor-in-chief of Tanin, Ahmet Emin Yelman, was sent to Germany as a war reporter to inform the Ottoman press about the German victories. The Ottoman war commander, Kazim Karabekir, who served as a chief of intelligence of the general staff of the military during the war, and later became one of the main lieutenants of Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, stated that the Ottoman propaganda continuously repeated that Germany's victory was inevitable, that Muslims needed to use this opportunity to become free, that the Muslim Ummah was going to revolt under the orders of its caliph, and that Britain and Russia were the enemies. Under the conditions of wartime journalism, the Ottoman press regularly published articles reiterating the above points. But considerable efforts by Germany and the Ottoman Empire to incite uprisings in the Muslim colonies of the Entente countries failed, as in practice, the Ottoman Sultan did not really have much influence over Muslims of the world.
Oh, I see. It didn't, like, it seemed like when the other countries didn't sort of follow through with his call, it seemed like he didn't have that much power at all.
Did not prevent Muslim leaders from siding with the Entente or remaining neutral in the struggle. Abdelaziz ibn al-Saud signed a treaty of alliance with Britain in late 1915. Sayyid Muhammad Ali al-Idrisi, a leader of the Sufi state in the Arabian Peninsula, sided with the Italians and British during the war. Sharif of Mecca, Hussein bin Ali,
Yeah,
also sided with Britain, as the British government agreed to recognize.
The Ottoman Empire just didn't look at the geopolitical landscape at this point in time, did they? They thought, oh yeah, this will change everyone's mind. It won't change the fact that these countries have financial and also close ties to the other countries to keep themselves in power or to keep their stuff going. Do you know what I mean?
Arab independence after the war in exchange for revolting against Ottoman rule. Hussein claimed that a real holy war was out of the question, as the Ottoman Empire sided with another Christian power. The German gamble to use the Ottoman Empire as a tool to incite Muslim uprising in the Entente countries failed. Once again, thanks to Supremacy 1914 for sponsoring this video.
It absolutely failed. I think that is the end of that episode. Once again, a great suggestion. Thank you very much. If you haven't already, head over to Kings and Generals page. Yeah, I really